Marlene Pacheco and her husband Manuel lived in Colorado Springs, Colorado, with their 3 children. As parents, they would do anything to make their kids happy. But as Marlene and Manuel discovered, sometimes the life of a loved one may depend on the actions and kindness of a long chain of strangers.
Aaron, we always knew he was special from the beginning, and there was something about Aaron. He was playful, loving, so I never thought I'd ever have to experience anything like this. It was a Friday evening, and I happened to notice he had a real big bruise right on his cheek. I thought that maybe one of the children might have hit him with the ball or swinging back and forth on the swing set.
What were you guys doing outside?
And they both didn't know. They didn't know how it got there.
Oh, my God. That Monday morning, when I had lifted him from his rib cage, he had both my handprints on his ribs. Come here. Aaron was very weak. He had marks on his face from where I kissed him. That's how sensitive his skin was. You couldn't even press on him, and a bruise would occur. I was scared. There's no way of describing it. I felt like he was dying in my arms.
When we continue.
When a child reaches this condition, a high percentage of them will not make it through the next day.
Their young son to Memorial Hospital, where he was examined by pediatric blood specialist Dr. Emma Harwood.
Sorry to have to tell you, but Aaron is very critically ill.
I thought that he probably had a disease or a process going on that was interfering with blood production. And when a child reaches this condition, a high percentage of them will not make it through the next day. After seeing the initial blood tests, I went back to the parents at that point and I told them that Aaron's bone marrow had failed. The possibilities as to why this had happened included leukemia, some severe diseases like aplastic anemia, and severe infections. And we should pray for leukemia. So he's done some significant bleeding.
My husband and I said, no way am I going to pray for leukemia, because leukemia to me was something very, very serious and very scary. And aplastic anemia, that sounds harmless. And to tell you the truth, there was probably times when I prayed for aplastic anemia, which was very hard later when I found out that's what he had.
Now, that's a very serious problem.
Aplastic anemia is a condition where the bone marrow production of blood totally fails. It was what I did not want to see. It was the diagnosis I did not want to make. And I felt very sad.
The whole world stopped. I was sitting here looking at a situation that I couldn't understand.
We'll let you hold him as soon as possible.
Right here, ma'am.
Just about the only hope for victims of aplastic anemia is a bone marrow transplant. But the donor must be a perfect match.
About 1 in 4 are lucky enough to have a relative, specifically a brother or sister, who will be a bone marrow donor for them. Of those unlucky children who do not have a donor within the family, the majority of them will die.
Aaron's family, including his brother and sister Antoinette, volunteered to be tested.
All I really knew is that he needed a bone marrow transplant to live. In order to live, he needed that. And so if I had it, I'd give it to him in order for him to live.
Unfortunately, when those tests came back, there was no donor within his family that matched him.
Good, baby.
The problem was to try to keep Aaron alive long enough with blood transfusions and medication until they could find a donor for him.
There was nobody giving us any promises, any guarantees. We didn't know how long we had with Aaron. We felt very helpless. I'll drink some Baba.
Dr. Harwood, she said that we got to get used to the fact that we're going to be here in the hospital for a long time. I knew then that we had a fight on our hands. I wasn't going to let Aaron die. I wasn't going to accept the fact that he was going to die.
They began a search of the National Marrow Donor Registry for a match for Aaron. But his family also contacted recruitment specialist Carol Carlson of the Colorado Marrow Donor Program. Her 4-year-old son, David, had been a victim of leukemia.
People ask me all the time, is David's death the reason that I do the work that I do? And no, it's not. David may be indeed the reason for the passion with which I do the work I do. I knew what it was like to sit and rock your child, not knowing whether he would be alive 2 days from then.
Aaron's best chance for a donor match would be with someone who was also of Hispanic descent.
His chances of finding a match were extremely small because of the 500,000 people that were in the registry in 1991, less than 3% of those were Hispanic.
Wave hi to everybody. Oh, that Carol approached us and said, now we'd like to go to the media to ask the public to come forward for this little boy.
I have a press release that needs to go out today.
With the first wave of publicity, more than 700 people turned out to be tested and registered.
I did not want another child to die. It became a personal mission, almost, that Aaron was going to find a donor.
Over the next 4 months, 6 other donor drives were held, and 3,000 new donors were recruited.
We knew the chances of a donor coming from one of our drives was going to be a very slim possibility.
I remember it was school, work, and then straight to the hospital. There was no in between. We hardly even lived in that house anymore. But Aaron was still with us, and there was so much love in that room. I mean, you could cut it with a knife.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
We spent Halloween, we spent Thanksgiving, we seen Christmas come around, and we spent New Year's, and the holidays were going, and people's lives were going ahead, and we were still in that room waiting.
Good night. I bought Marlene a card. It was a Valentine's card, and she says, there's another holiday we're going through, spending in the hospital.
That's pretty, huh?
Good morning, folks. How'd you like some good news for a change?
Finally, the news came back that, yes, the donor was willing, and it was a go. Send Aaron tomorrow.
I can't believe it.
The chills went up and down my spine. At the same time, I had that little bit of hesitancy. Aaron now was going to enter a new phase of risk, but at least he had his chance.
Aaron and his parents were flown to the University of Nebraska Medical Center to begin treatments to prepare him for the transplant.
She said that chemotherapy and radiation was going to really, really take a heavy toll on Aaron. We were going to have to go do what Dr. Harwood said we would have to do. And that was go and watch Aaron die all over again.
Aaron was treated under the supervision of pediatric bone marrow specialist, Dr. Bruce Gordon.
Before you get the transplant, you need to do something to kill off your immune system so that the bone marrow that you're getting from someone else will engraft. So indeed, he did get, and we expected him to get, very sick.
On March 5th, 1992, the long-awaited bone marrow was donated at Presbyterian Hospital in Albuquerque, then flown 500 miles to Aaron.
The donor had sent Aaron a bear. She sent a big white bear for Aaron. And whoever this donor was compassionate, very caring, very giving, and that was enough for us.
What time is it coming?
The doctor came in with the bone marrow. He takes the packet of blood and tosses it to my husband, and my husband catches it, almost like wants to pass out. He's holding the bone marrow, and he's looking at it. We're all like shocked. He tossed Aaron's bone marrow across the room.
I warned you it would be anticlimactic.
All I can remember is just sitting there thinking, gosh, I'm holding Aaron's life in my hand, right here. This is what's going to save him. It was like me and Marlene just kind of took a deep breath, and we knew that it was just a waiting period now.
The emotions in that room were incredible. This was the most moving experience I have ever shared. It was very moving to watch not just marrow going into Aaron, but a chance at life for an entire family.
There we go, Aaron. He got pretty sick. And I remember when I went back to the Potter house where we were staying, I bawled so hard. Aaron didn't deserve it. And many times I kept saying, switch this, put me in his shoes.
For the first 2 weeks, every day we'd go out and look at his charts and we'd see nothing. On day 12, I went out to look at the chart like I do every morning, and there was one cell. I knew that the bone marrow was working.
2 months after his transplant, Aaron and his parents were flown back to Memorial Hospital, where he spent almost 3 weeks before he was finally released.
That day that we left, it was like getting out of prison. We were prisoners of this illness. We all served a sentence, and we got out. We got out, we were free again.
Recently, the Pacheco family got a chance to meet the donor who gave Aaron the gift of life, Stella Egan.
Hello?
Hi.
How are you doing?
Fine.
What Stella Egan did for Aaron was probably one of the greatest things you could ever do for someone. This is Antoinette.
I knew nothing about Aaron. Absolutely nothing. Just that he was 1.5 years old. But, oh, I'm just happy that I could help him. Somebody said that giving marrow comes from the hip, but really mine came from my heart. Well, my part was very small, and it didn't hurt at all.
To her, it was so little to give. But for us, on the other end, I mean, Aaron wouldn't be with us today. Every time we look at Aaron, she's with us.
On May 22nd, 1993, Aaron's family celebrated his 3rd birthday, one they never thought he'd see. His family paid special tribute to all those who helped save their son.
When you share an experience like this with another human being, it's a feeling, a bond that will never go away. I think we're joined at the heart.
Stella, would you please come up?
Well, they keep on telling me what a wonderful person I am and all this, but really I don't feel any different. I just wanted to help somebody else. It's overwhelming, and I just want to say that our hopes and our prayers have been answered just by looking at Aaron today. Thank you.
I like winning against these diseases. The important thing that we need people to know is that there is a tremendous need for all of us to join the National Registry. The process is incredibly simple and very, very safe. But what you're giving to another individual is a chance at life.
Is that good?